I'm starting getting sick of talking about pirates.
Jam on toast!
Hey everybody, welcome to the Jam. I'm Cameron. Today the toast is to Pirates of the Caribbean 4, Stranger Tides. So the short sale on this one is that Jack, his ex-lover, her father, Blackbeard the pirate, the man who took Barbossa's leg, who is now flying under the English flag, and the Spanish are all on the quest for the Fountain of Youth, which apparently is just north of Miami. My love for this one is Blackbeard's magic. Not only is the ship in the bottle concept genius, but the little funky sword he's got and the fact that he's got a zombified monkey man is pretty cool. It's almost like instead of being afraid of all these mythical things, he started hoarding them, and maybe there's a few things in Blackbeard's bunk that we don't know about yet. My hate it for this one is Penelope Cruz's character. She actually does really well with the part, and I'm glad she got a bit in this movie. I just wish her part was written a little better. It's rather annoying. The fact that she's hell-bent on saving Blackbeard is just weird, and there's no real connection that they're even related, especially since Blackbeard is the sociopath. You thought all the other villains were bad in the previous movies. He's pretty clean cut and very upfront about it. Just robot pirate ninja who is also a zombie, but he's also the MVP for this one. Blackbeard definitely he makes such a good villain for this particular story, and I just wish we'd gotten like maybe a prequel to Stranger Tides that doesn't involve Jack. Just do a Blackbeard movie. That'd be real interesting. Sailing on to the categories. Aesthetics. Other than some water effects, we get a lot of the same thing that we get in the first three movies, but we don't get any undead, we don't get any fish people, we get a little bit of magic where like the ship's alive. Ooh, we get mermaids, which are pretty cool, but the whole point and advantage of the mermaids is that you can't get at them because they're in the water, and you can't really see them, and you didn't see them, and then Disney is afraid of showing boobs, so there's that whole thing, because obviously they're not going to be wearing clothes. They're mermaids. It's a whole just societal implication that we have to cover that up that ruins it. I'm not saying show me boobs, I'm saying that the fact that it's a big deal is kind of breaks it. Aesthetics gets a 90. Character development. The problem with the character development here is that the most interesting characters have already been developed. Granted, we're missing the story between Blackbeard and Barbossa. Man, I want that so bad. But it's very clear what's happened. They shotgun it, and they lean on the other movies, and they don't give us a whole lot. Even towards the end, it doesn't change anybody. There's no real resolution in their characters. There's no true growth other than maybe Jack, who never really wanted the Fountain of Youth once he figured out what it was. But of course, Barbossa turns a leaf, and that's always fun. Character development gets an 80. Storyline. I think with some significant character twists, this could be a really interesting movie. Unlike the other movies though, the Spanish really aren't written into it well. They exist in certain capacities, you see them at different points in the movie, but you don't get to know them. They don't have their own characters, and I think that was really what hurt it, because the first three movies were so interesting because you got to see like 7 different stories playing out at once, where you could take each character as their own protagonist. But now this is kind of like a weird battle between Pirates English and the Spanish, all with some kind of weird religious basis. Storyline gets a 90. Compulsion. This is not as good as the other movies. It's not as interesting. I find Cruz's character to be kind of annoying. Jack's just kind of like no control or freedom into this. He's kind of blackmailed into it, really, when it comes down to it. The mermaid character is interesting, but she's held captive. The preacher guy, religion aside, is stuck. There's a lot of stuck in it, and the only people volunteering for this are possibly the Spanish, but Barbossa and Gibbs kind of chasing not even like the dream of living forever like Blackbeard is and Jack was, but really just kind of revenge. So while the story itself is pretty interesting, the compulsion to watch some of the execution is a little weird. Especially when they end up in the Spanish camp, it seems like a little break and you can just go to the bathroom and come back. Compulsion gets a 75. Now, if you total everything up, you get an average of 83.75. For my review, I gotta say this movie definitely has its ups and downs. If you really like the first three, check this one out. At the point where you're like, I want to do something else, go ahead and do something else. Because it's not going to get any better if you already think it's bad. But that's it for me. I'm Cameron. You don't like me? Bite me. If you want to see anything else we're up to, go ahead and click the annotations, and they'll take you to our other channels.